Hey everybody, this is All the Things. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you for watching. Doing another book review today, and on this occasion, we are talking about a very well-known book, so I thought I might as well give it a read, and that is called The Five Love Languages. So, this book, which has a really nice cover, I like how the colors turn into purple, very nice. But this book, I've heard a lot about this, and this is kind of the book. It's like a Kleenex book, where Kleenex is tissues, but Kleenex is such a popular brand of tissues that they just call them Kleenex. Like, this is such a popular idea that I hear it just as a concept, not even the title of the book. But this, I would call it a relationship book. And this not I know this looks all like lovey-dovey on the beach kind of thing. I think this applies to all relationships, but it's focusing on like intimate relationships, in my opinion, in here. But I think in basically every human to human interaction, there should be some form of love. There's this Greek word agape, which is like friendship love, and I think that applies very deeply to a lot of relationships. That's me. But I think this book is not only good for intimate relationships, but just ideas for good friendships and maintaining like healthy relationships and stuff. So if you don't know, the five love languages that are talked about by this book by Gary Chapman, he's the guy that wrote the book. They are words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch. And before we get into that, which I'm probably not going to get into too much because I'm not going to tell you everything about this book, what I thought was interesting about this book is, in addition to telling you these different ways that you can interact with your partner, these different love languages, which it frames very, I think, in a useful way, where it says, hey, not everybody communicates love the same and not everybody understands love the same. Which I think for any type of communication, not everybody communicates the same and not everybody understands the same. So here's some different types of communication to help you learn what your style is, learn what you like, and help other people help you. So you can say, like, I really like gifts. So if you want to show me you love me, buy me gifts. Or I really need touch. Like, if you don't touch me, I don't feel like you care about me. But it's also a way for you to try different things with your partner, to say, maybe I think when I love somebody I give them gifts, but I'm giving gifts to somebody who needs quality time, and so they're thinking like, man, he gives me all these gifts, but like I need him to love me, and they're thinking it's quality time. So it helps kind of bridge that gap and get to a point where you're not being confused as to like, oh, I keep doing what I think in my mind is love, but they keep acting like it's not. And this can help you to be like, oh, maybe I should be more receptive to what their idea of love is, and it gives you some practical steps to doing that. So I thought that was super dope. But in my opinion, this book, the most profound or the interesting thing that I thought came from this book is this thing called the love tank. And the love tank is basically like a gas tank in a car. And if you want to drive the car of your relationship, you have gas in the car. So you need love in your tank so your relationship can drive, basically. And you do that by communicating the appropriate love language to your partner and all that kind of stuff. But this idea of like relationships are not just these spontaneous, magical things that come out of the ground, and if you have good feelings in your heart, it's going to work. No, they are things that you need to work on and maintain. They're like your health. Like, you can't just do bunch of sit-ups and get a six-pack and then you have the six-pack forever. You have to work on it initially to get the six-pack, and then you have to over time maintain it by doing work. And it looks at a relationship like that, where not like vain, like you need a six-pack and stuff like that, but a relationship is something where you need to put effort into to like fill up this tank, and you need to keep this tank at a certain level so that you can drive the relationship. And if you don't, if the tank is empty, it makes everything else harder. And so I thought that was a really interesting concept, and I liked it a lot. And I've applied that to a bunch of my different relationships, where if somebody's running on E in our relationship, maybe I can't come and tell you something you don't want to hear because you already feel like I don't love you, and then I come and criticize you, and now you feel attacked. But if I like filled up that love tank, and I'm not saying to like manipulate them, like, oh, make them feel really good and then criticize them, like, not like that. But if we have a healthy relationship, we have good trust, we have good rapport and stuff, then I think it's much a better conversation when I'm like, hey man, last week this or that happened, can we talk about that? It's more likely to turn into a good conversation because we're on a good level and we have good rapport. And part of that is making sure your relationship is running well, making sure you got your oil changes, making sure you got your windshield wiper fluid, making sure that you got your brakes done, making sure you got gas in the tank, and stuff like that. So thought that was a really dope idea. And this guy, Gary Chapman, I guess he's like a relationship therapist. So he developed this idea from like, running through this situation over and over and over and over with different people in like therapy settings. And he starts like teaching this. He does like seminars, or I don't know if he's alive still or not, but it started really helping people, and he started really seeing results. And then he wrote this book, and then there's all these other versions of this book. Like they got this list. They had like the 5 love languages for men, for children, for teenagers, for singles, the military edition. So I think it gets more in depth, not necessarily with the different, like there's a different 5 for each set, but like in terms of acts of service, like if that's one of the love languages, maybe for people in the military it's different than for men, than it is for children, than it is for teenagers. So if you're having trouble with a certain type of relationship, you can buy like a certain version of this book, I guess, and it gives you tips on that. I thought that was kind of cool. So this guy, Gary Chapman, I think he's doing a good thing. He found a good idea, he wrote it down, he's sharing it with everybody, and I approve of that. I think that's great, and even just for that, I'm willing to read the idea because I think he's trying to do a good thing. But on top of that, he did do a good thing, I think. The book was easy to read. It gives you some vocabulary to talk about conversation with. If you read this with your partner, if you're like in a relationship and they're willing to read it with you, not like you read it, I read it, then we'll talk, but I feel like if you read it together, maybe like one chapter at a time, then talk and that kind of stuff, it gives you vocabulary and it gives you kind of a setting or a background to have a really interesting conversation and maybe figure out where you can make each other feel loved more, which is pretty important in a relationship, in my opinion. But yeah, the book is pretty simple to understand. Some of the stuff is like so simple that if you didn't think about it, some of the stuff in here I didn't think about before I read it. It's like, wow, that's super simple, and I would have never thought about that on my own. So sometimes it's good to get other perspectives on stuff. But the book is The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman, and I don't know, how much is it? $15. I think most of the books I read are like $15. I think it was worth it. It's the kind of thing where you read it early in your life and it helps you have that thought vocabulary to think stuff in your head and name things and be able to act in the world. So I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chapman, for writing it. And yeah, this has been another episode of Book Reviews by All the Things. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you liked it. And yeah, if you read the book, if you read any of the other books, I haven't read any of the other books. I'm probably not going to read any other books. But if you liked them, if you didn't like them, if they were different or the same, I don't know, drop a comment, let me know. But yeah, that's been All the Things. I'll catch you guys later.